Hey guys, I want to talk to you for a minute about success and how you define it and how you measure it, and a little bit about how you go about deciding what to place importance upon in your life. So I want to start with a couple of definitions real quick, because I think it's really important whenever you think deeply about something or try to be serious about getting to an answer, that you start by defining the terms that you're going to use, so that you're not chasing something that isn't real. So I'm going to start with the definition of success. And these are just Google definitions. I don't remember what source I pulled them from. I think it was multiple sources. So just Google definitions for these words and you'll get something pretty close to what I'm giving you. So, success is the achievement of something desired, or the gaining of fame or prosperity, the degree or measure of succeeding. Happiness is defined as good luck, good fortune, or prosperity, or an agreeable feeling or condition of the soul arising from good fortune. To fulfill, to bring into actuality, effect, or make real. To do, perform, or obey. To satisfy a need or meet a condition. Alright, those three things defined. I'm going to go ahead and also put out two quotes, and just keep these in mind as we talk about the rest of what I'm going to go through, and I'll come back to them, but just keep them in mind and kind of filter everything we talk about through the idea these quotes put out. One of them is from the Bible, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, and it's only part of the verse. Yes, it's taken out of context, but I think in this case, the context is still relevant to what I'm saying. No, I am not a biblical scholar. No, I am not a theologian. And no, I am not your pastor. If you disagree with my interpretation of this, go look it up yourself and pray on it. I'm going to give you my interpretation of, or at least my application of, this verse. But this part of the verse I like is, we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And it's a command telling us that even the thoughts popping into our heads are ours, and they are our responsibility to make sure that we're in command of them. The other is a quote from Thomas Sowell, and he says, "There are no solutions, only compromises." What that means is there is no perfect solution when you have a complex problem, but what you do have is any compromise that you apply towards that problem will have good and bad outcomes, and you need to weigh those to determine which is the appropriate path to follow. So with those definitions and quotes aside, I'm going to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs a little bit, and I'm going to relate that to how you determine, how you define, and how you measure success in your life. So the lowest need, the most basic need we have is physiological. In its most basic sense, that's food, water, and shelter. And I think when you come into men's spaces and you're looking for guidance or direction, or just maybe some actionable steps you can take to improve your life, most of the things people give you actually hit in this area. Going to the gym, going to work, and getting your finances in order is a step towards feeding your most basic needs. If you're not in good health, your physiological needs are lacking, and frankly, you have no business looking beyond those basic needs until they're covered. We'll come back to that. The second need is safety. In that safety, it really isn't necessarily about safety per se, but what it is about is that you can rest. Once your basic needs are met, the next most important thing is that you can find a place of peace, that you can find quiet, and you can find rest so that you can recover, so that you can expand on the resources and your environment that allowed you to meet your physiological needs. So safety is a matter of, now that my needs are met, can I meet those needs in a place that also provides me rest? This is also kind of included in a lot of the advice that gets given out in these men's spaces. So finding peace has to do with making sure that nothing comes into your environment that disrupts and brings you back to where now you're dealing with those physiological needs. The third step, and this is where things start to get a little bit different. The third step is love and belonging. And this is where it gets really tough when you're talking in the man space about men are really struggling to find women that value the same things we value. Modern Western men in particular are trying to and still desire to start families, at least in a somewhat traditional manner, and finding women who even desire that is really getting difficult. We're not going to talk about women's issues and what's causing all that. We're not going to go into how to even address that. But what I will say is that when you're addressing these needs are your personal needs. And you need to define your success, and you need to think about these needs in a manner that doesn't rely on other people to fulfill them. And in that way, if you're trying to fulfill a need for love, you can't make someone else love you. You can't guarantee that some woman will find what you offer acceptable. There's just, it's another person, and you can't control their heart and their mind. The best you can do in that regard is to fulfill your other needs, to present yourself in a way that makes you desirable to the most people, and hope that you can find one. And in this regard, I say a lot of the, excuse me, a lot of the advice that's given out lends more towards looking for a woman, and I would say look for love or belonging. I think you increase your chances, and either one can meet this basic need in this hierarchy. So if you can find belonging in a group, whether that's a fishing club or a hiking club or a MMA gym, or who knows what it might be, whatever it is you find interesting, and that you could find a group of people who also find it interesting, find some common ground with some people, and make sure that those people that you meet in there also have their first two needs met. Because if you're trying to find belonging with people who are missing those needs, they're not bringing into a relationship anything that can help you become fulfilled. So I'm not saying avoid people who need work. I'm just saying if you're trying to find belonging, try to find belonging with people who are already meeting their basic needs. Step 4 in the hierarchy needs is esteem. And that can be self-esteem, or it can be the esteem of others. And this kind of goes back to love and belonging. So if you're pursuing an avenue that brings you family or a romantic love, then clearly the esteem you're looking for is from others. It's an external validation. But if you're looking for self-esteem, and I do think this is more important, and I think you should look for both, but I think if you need to focus on one, you focus on self-esteem. And self-esteem is a realization that you have met your needs, and that you are now not only covered as far as your basic needs, and you're safe, and you have peace in your life, and now you have belonging, you have a group, you have friends or family around. The self-esteem comes from knowing that you're providing to them what they're looking for. You are meeting their need in that love and belonging category. The self-esteem could either be that you're providing love for somebody, or it could be that you are the group that some other person belongs to. But either way, esteem is the recognition of others or yourself that you are meeting the first three needs. And the fifth need is self-actualization or spirituality. To me, this is kind of a weird one because it's the pinnacle of needs. And to me, this self-actualization or spirituality is really, now that I have all of my basic needs met, now that I have love and belonging, now that I have self-esteem and the esteem of others, what do I do with it? And this is where all the totality of your life is pointed in a direction that's going to aim at some goal. All right, and this is where I come back to the Bible verse about wrestling your thoughts under control. In my opinion, you start in your life with a estimation of what that fifth need is. You start with an estimation of what self-actualization would look like and what your spirituality should mean. And you aim all these other things in your life at that goal. And what that will do is that will help you when you come to that love and belonging stage, or even in the safety stage where you're looking, where do I live? What community do I surround myself with? In love and belonging, what kind of woman do I look for to partner with? Or what kind of friends, what kind of group do I allow myself to become associated with? Those things really come back in. For example, if I wanted to be a good Christian man that's going out and spreading the love of Jesus in the world, then I can't belong to a group of Satanists. I mean, it's silly, but it's an extreme example of I need to belong to a group that also feeds into that self-actualization mode. And all these things stack upon each other. So with that said, there are internal and external validations of these needs. And I'll start with external because ultimately nobody wants to just self-improve to self-improve. We're all trying to find our group. We're trying to be around our people. We want to be a part of a family or a clan of some sort. So we need that external validation. That external validation is proof that we're not just giving ourselves straight A's in the school of life. You know, we're putting out there, this is who we project ourselves to be, and then the external validation is other people responding back to that and telling us, yes, we see you as that thing that you vision yourself as. And those come into play in steps 3 and 4, the love and belonging and the esteem stage. So you're not going to get external validation in meeting your needs. You're not going to get external validation in providing for your safety. But you will get external validation when you start to belong to a group, or when you start to find love and you start to have deeper friendships and loving relationships. The internal validation does not come in the love and belonging part hardly at all. I'm sure there's still some aspect of that, but really the internal validation comes in when you're meeting your basic needs. Because one, you get to define what your comfort level is there. So you'll know when you're meeting what makes you comfortable or not. So you get to validate that yourself. Safety is the same thing. Where I might feel safe may feel very dangerous to you, and vice versa. So my internal validation of my safety is, can I sleep? Can I restfully recover from the chaotic world around me? When it comes to love and belonging, the internal validation isn't really there, because you can want to belong all you want, but other people will tell you when you belong or when you don't, whether they actually tell you that or if they just indicate it to you. In the self-actualization or spirituality category, it's going to be internal validation, unless you consider God smiling down on you external validation. To me, I find it somewhere in between. But really, the internal validation of that comes from having a really thorough evaluation of what I find to be right and good and worth pursuing, and knowing whether I've done it to the best of my ability. So I'll bring back to Thomas Sowell's quote about there are no solutions, only compromises. And you'll find that when you're going up and down these lists of needs, that sometimes how you will go about affecting changes is going to change. And you also might find that you'll reach that 4th or even 5th stage, and you'll realize that the goal I aimed at to self-actualize was not a big enough goal, or maybe not a worthy goal. Or you might find that the esteem that you get from people doesn't mean very much to you because the people who esteem you aren't people who you esteem. And that can take you back down to the love and belonging category, where perhaps you can't self-actualize because you belong to the wrong groups. The groups that you chose to associate with cannot help you get to the next level of your needs. Or the person that you've chosen to partner with, or the loving family members that you have, might actually be detrimental to such an extent that you can't get past that stage of needs. And that's where I say, when you go to define your success, and again, definition of success is the achievement of something desired. What is it that you desire? You can redefine that at any time. You may achieve what you desire and find out that you don't desire it anymore. That happens quite often. Fulfillment is to do, to perform, or obey. So if you want a fulfilled life, then just obey yourself and perform the duties. Do the things you need to do to achieve what you desire, so that you can say, I have been a success. And once you've reached that success, find a new thing to desire. Find a better thing to desire. Find a harder thing to desire. And in this way, you can continue to apply these basic needs to your life in a way that gives you not only a blueprint for how to achieve this self-actualization or this higher spiritual level, but also gives you kind of a litmus test that you can hold up to the results and say, does this meet what I'm trying to meet? Anyways, love you guys. I'll see you next time.